Tonight's service is called Recounting Our Sorrows, a Tisha B'Av service. Tisha B'Av is a tricky holiday for some of us. We mourn the loss of the temple. Now, this was a very, very long time ago, and Judaism has changed a lot since the temple period. So, what was special for me, and when I was given the opportunity to lead the service, I thought about what does it mean to mourn the temple? What would that have felt like in that time period? And because we're blessed here at OneShul by having a prayer request wall, started looking at the prayer request wall and looking at all of the things that we mourn, all of the losses that we've had in our lives. Some of them are small. We fail a test. We don't get that job promotion that we wanted. Things of that nature. Some of them are big. A lost childhood. A serious injury or illness. A death. Things that continue to tug at our hearts, even when we have long since passed that time. And when I started to read the prayer wall and I realized what that mourning was like, it kind of turned something on in my mind about what mourning the temple really was. It's about mourning something that lasts forever, even though you don't want that pain to last forever. You want it to go away. You want to be able to sort of let go, and you can't. And in today's culture, we teach people to let go. It's all about letting go. It's all about getting past your pain. People go to therapy just to deal with this, just to deal with getting over a pain that they've had, trying to find a way to get released, to forgive and forget, and things like that. But Judaism does something different. We don't teach forgive and forget. We teach forgiveness, but we teach never forgetting. That's a more powerful statement, and that's what Tisha B'Av is about. I would suspect for many of us, the idea of mourning the temple doesn't really speak to something that is emotional, emotive, that's connected to our hearts. But there are an awful lot of things that we will never get past. And while I'm not a professional therapist and I don't have a degree in psychology, the closest I ever came was a psychology class in high school and then another one when I was in college. I do believe that people can heal, but I don't think that sweeping it... I think often people sweep it under the rug. We call that sweeping under the rug healing. That if you don't talk about something, that if you don't memorialize pain, that if you don't allow it to be a burden, if you pretend like it's not a burden, then it somehow goes away. And I think that what Judaism does is it allows us to reconcile pain that frankly we're just never going to get over, and it gives us the ability to submit to the pain and to submit to the fact that there may be things that we're simply never going to get over, and that that's okay. And not only is it okay, it's not a passive kind of okay, it's an active okay. It's actually a celebration of the pain. And through celebrating the pain, we don't get over it, but we get through it. And that's what we're really about tonight. So I want to welcome all of you here to OneShul. I see we've got a great crowd, we've got a growing crowd. If this is your first time here and I'm seeing a lot of new faces, welcome. We're an online pluralistic Jewish community. We're the first of its kind. We accept all people who want to participate in the growing and evolving Jewish experience. We are not affiliated with a particular movement in Judaism. Our community spans the various galaxies of Jewish identity, from Orthodox to secular, and everyone, in the middle. Someone asked me the other day, actually, what would you describe the average religious practice of a OneShul participant? What is their Jewish identity? And I would say that it's Orthodox reconstructiformative, right? With some renewal in Hasidic and Satmar tendencies, right? Like we're a very diverse group. We have a diverse sense of, what Judaism is, what Judaism means to us. But we know, as our OneShul logo and our OneShul tagline states, one God, one Torah, and here we are, OneShul, one united Jewish community together here experiencing Judaism with each other. We all take an active involvement in each other's lives, which is why we use a Facebook and Twitter-enabled chat room. Please friend each other on your social networks. And send me an email. My email is patrick@PunkTorah.org. Again, if you're just now joining us, I'm the executive director, but I am one of many volunteers. I'm not the leader. I'm just another faithful person here who wants to be a part of Jewish community. This is my community. This is how I'm spending my Tisha B'Av. And I'm so grateful and I'm so humbled by the fact that you wanted to have this with me. It's a very special moment. I got to tell you, when I was reading through the service we're going to do tonight, I cried. Like, there's some very deep things, and I'm really grateful that you wanted to share that with the OneShul community. If you ever have any questions, if you need something, all you have to do is email us. We have all of our contact info is all over the website. And again, as I mentioned before, we do rely on donations from individuals. We don't have large institutional support. We're not a part of a brick-and-mortar synagogue. We're all leaders in different ways, but we rely on donations in order to continue the work that we do for the thousands and thousands of people around the world who are a part of the OneShul community. Our service for tonight, if you'd like to be able to follow along, is in the library. I've included a link in the chat room. You'll want to open a new window and click on Library, and that will open up the service for you. Again, open a new window so that you don't lose this window. You can participate on paper, or you can just watch, listen, and participate in that way as well. So, I want to start off tonight by mentioning our kavanot, our intentions. So my hope for this service is that we give ourselves the opportunity to grieve for the losses that have happened in our lives, the calamities, the events which took place to alter our entire future, and to give ourselves the permission not to forget, but instead to work through it and to let go as best as we can. So, as part of Tisha B'Av, what do we actually commemorate? What's the origin of this day? So I'll read through a few things. The 12 spies sent by Moses to observe the land of Canaan returned from their mission. Only 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, brought a positive report, while the others spoke disparagingly about the land. The majority report caused the children of Israel to cry, panic, and despair of ever entering the promised land. For this they were punished by God, that their generation would not enter the land. Because of the Israelites' lack of faith, God decreed that for all generations, this date would become one of crying and misfortune for their descendants. The first temple, built by King Solomon and the kingdom of Judah, was destroyed by the Babylonians, led by Nebuchadnezzar, in 586 BCE, after the siege in 587. The Judeans were sent into the Babylonian exile. The second temple, built by Ezra and Nehemiah, was destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE, scattering the people of Judea and commencing the Jewish exile from the Holy Land. According to the Talmud, the destruction of the second temple began on the 9th of Av, and the temple continued to burn through the 10th of Av. The Romans crushed Bar Kokhba's revolt and destroyed the city of Betar, killing over 100,000 Jews. Following the Bar Kokhba revolt, Roman commander Turnus Rufus plowed the site of the temple and the surrounding area. The First Crusade officially commenced on August 15th, 1096, which was also the 9th of Av. Jews were expelled from England July 25th, 1290, again the 9th of Av. Jews were expelled from Spain on the 9th of Av. On August 1st, 1914, World War I broke out, causing unprecedented devastation across Europe, in the stage for World War II and Hashoah. And on the eve of Tisha B'Av, 1942, a mass deportation began of Jews from the Western Ghetto en route to Treblinka. So it's with these sorrows that we continue the practice of Tisha B'Av. But we need to recognize, of course, that we have our own personal sorrows, and while we can mourn for the many destructive acts that have happened against the Jewish people, we also recognize that with our bigger suffering comes something that is personal and inside. What we do on Tisha B'Av is we read the Book of Lamentations. And for this service, we're not going to go through the whole book. We're going to use our Jewish past. We're going to use our holy literature to start us down the path of recognizing our own lamentations. We're going to start by a reading of the first chapter of Lamentations, and we're going to connect the past with our present and our future. We'll now play a short video with the Book of Lamentations. This is our first time streaming video with the technique we're about to use. If there's any problems, if there's any disconnections, please let me know, and I will actually read Lamentations myself.
Lamentations chapter 1. How does the city sit solitary that was full of people? How has she become as a widow, she that was great among the nations, and princes among the provinces? How has she become tributary? She weeps greatly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. She has none to comfort her among all her lovers. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her, they have become her enemies. Judah has gone into exile because of affliction, and because of great servitude. She dwells among the nations, she finds no rest. All her pursuers overtook her within the straits. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn assembly. All her gates are desolate, her priests sigh, her virgins are afflicted, and she herself is in bitterness. Her adversaries have become the head, her enemies are at ease, for the Lord has afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her young children have gone into captivity before the adversary. And gone is from the daughter of Zion all her splendor. Her princes have become like harts that find no pasture, and they have gone without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembers in the days of her affliction and of her anguish all her treasures that she had from the days of old. Now that her people fall by the hand of the adversary, and none do help her. The adversaries have seen her, they have mocked at her desolations. Jerusalem has grievously sinned, therefore she has become as one unclean. All that honored her despise her, because they have seen her nakedness. She herself also sighs and turns backward. Her filthiness was in her skirts, she was not mindful of her end. Therefore she has come down wonderfully, she has no comforter. Behold, O Lord, my affliction, for the enemy has magnified himself. The adversary has spread out his hand upon all her treasures, for she has seen that the heathen have entered into her sanctuary, concerning whom you did command that they should not enter into your congregation. All her people sigh, they seek bread, they have given their pleasant things for food to refresh the soul. See, O Lord, and behold how abject I have become. Let it not come unto you all that you that pass by. Behold and see if there be any pain like unto my pain, which is done unto me, with which the Lord has afflicted me in the days of his fierce anger. From on high has he set fire into my bones, and it prevails against them. He has spread a net for my feet, and has turned me back. He has made me desolate and faint all the day. The yoke of my transgressions is impressed by his hand. They are knit together, they have come up upon my neck. He has made my strength to fail. The Lord has delivered me into their hands, against whom I am not able to stand. The Lord has set at nothing all my mighty men in the midst of me. He has called a solemn assembly against me to crush my young men. The Lord has trodden as in a winepress the virgin, the daughter of Judah. For these things I weep, my eye runs down with water, because the Comforter is far from me, even he that should refresh my soul. My children are desolate, because the enemy has prevailed. Zion spreads forth her hands, there is none to comfort her. The Lord has commanded concerning Jacob, that they that are round about him should be his adversaries. Jerusalem is among them as one unclean. The Lord is righteous, for I have rebelled against his word. Hear, I pray you, all you peoples, and behold my pain. My virgins and my young men have gone into captivity. I called for my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and my elders perished in the city, while they sought food to refresh their souls. Behold, O Lord, for I am in distress. My inwards burn, my heart is turned within me. For I have grievously rebelled. Abroad the sword bereaves, at home there is the like of death. They have heard that I sigh, there is none to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my trouble, and are glad, for you have done it. You will bring the day that you have proclaimed, and they shall be like unto me. Let all their wickedness come before you, and do unto them as you have done unto me for all my transgressions. For my sighs are many, and my heart is faint. Lamentations chapter 1. How does
So, what I'd like to do is to read the prayer requests that were submitted to our community, and then we will take some time to talk about those things right now online that people are feeling. These are the prayer requests that have been made from members of our community, some who may actually be here tonight, others who couldn't join us. But it's important that we connect ourselves with them just as we are connecting with the past. It's my honor to read these lamentations from the community. Please pray that I can stop doing harm to myself. For perspective, greater esteem of self and compassion rather than judgment. I grieve for the loss of my childhood and all the things I cannot say. For any and all mistakes I made or am making as a wife, mother, and grandmother, I ask for guidance to do better and forgiveness for those things I have done or am doing that are hurtful and damaging. My mother has been in a nursing home for about the last 8 years. And most recently, it has been tough to visit her because she has dementia. And our conversations go in one direction. I wish to give up my fear that prevents me from going. My father died years ago. His passing caused a rift in my family that I have tried hard to heal, but to no avail. I mourn the scattering of my family and pray that we will somehow find our way back to each other. I need help to find forgiveness and to let go of resentment and anger of how my family, mom and brother, who I raised since I was 15, could just exile and dump me out of the family like a piece of trash thrown to the curb. healing physically, emotionally, and spiritually, freedom to live and believe, clarity and courage to move forward. I would like to be able to tell the people in my family who have died that I love them. I grieve because I don't know if I'm going to meet them on the other side at my own death. I grieve because at this late part of my life, I have not yet attracted my mate to come into my life of his own. My wife died of cancer when she was 21. I was young too and sometimes thoughtless, selfish. That was a long time ago, but I hope she knew how much I love her every day still. I hope I can find the strength to continue fighting my mental illness and become the person I want to be. I hope I can start to find my own peace and spirituality and no longer feel broken. And our last supplication for Tisha B'Av, prayer request that I may return to my Jewish faith and be welcomed back into the community. So I'd like to take this moment, and it looks like we're already starting. Everyone's ahead of me. I'd like to take this time now for everyone to talk about those things in their lives that have been difficult in their past, and the things that we are recounting here in the community. I will go on ahead and start. I think that probably the most difficult thing for me has been getting past a sense that I have of feeling like challenges in life are all personal. That if something is difficult for me to do, if I'm having trouble with something, that it's because somehow the world is against me, because other people are somehow against me, that somehow I'm just not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. And I take even small challenges so personally that they anger me. And this comes from when I was a little kid, feeling like my teachers and people around me like that weren't as smart as I was. This sort of ego that I had, that surely I was smarter than them. And how come I had to be stuck here with them? And to this day, I carry that. I carry that sense of sort of us and them, and it causes me a lot of problems. So that's something that I have held on to. That's something that I mourn, because that for me is the destruction of myself. By not being able to see challenges in life as just being challenges, but by carrying over this difficulty that I had as a little kid, and bringing that into my adulthood when it's not necessary. So in the community here, we're discussing dementia. And I know we have, as I mentioned in the prayer wall earlier, several people mentioned things like mental illness, things of that nature, and how difficult that is, whether we ourselves are personally struggling with it, or whether we know someone who's struggling. And it's hard for everyone. Even rabbis have this problem. As a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine who is a rabbi, and I was discussing with him, how do you help people who are having mental illness problems? And he said, we have to keep referring them to other help, because there's only so much that we can do. We're not trained to specifically help people who have mental illness problems. So even rabbis don't know what to do, and we somehow see rabbis as having all the solutions, right? Like you're the community leader, and you're supposed to be able to solve everything. And here's an example of something where even someone who we give that amount of power to can't do anything with it. So definitely we keep those in mind who are having trouble with dementia, mental illness, things of that nature. Would anyone else in the community like to share anything else that's going on? Any other personal things that we're dealing with? So Jolene makes the comment about, losing the person that you know. The person is sort of still there, but they're not that person anymore. We have that connection to them deeply, and when what we see as them goes away, what they gave us goes away, then we mourn for that. And Sarah Bas Avraham makes the comment that she misses her family, that they scattered after her father died. And that's really, really tough. We're in a difficult time now, I think, nowadays, because we don't have those tight families the way that we used to. Families are much more private, they're more split apart, and it's tough to deal with that sometimes. As much as we joke about our family and, why won't they leave me alone and all of that, that's a very difficult thing. We want people to invest in our lives. We want people to be involved with us. Ian mentions, I regret all of the close friends that I've grown apart from over the years. So again, this idea that we were invested in people and now we no longer are. We've lost that sense of connection and investment. And also the difficulty, too, I would say, of being an adult and trying to make those close friends again. When we are in college, school, things like that, we sort of have a little bit of a life that's packaged for us. And then as we get older, it's harder and harder to maintain those connections. And that's why friendship is something that we should really be grateful for, because it's actually very hard to maintain. Sarah makes the comment that she just reconnected with a friend from college. That's fantastic. Brian says, my biggest struggle has always been my family. Growing up, my family was fractured and has continued to fracture even more. I have been one of the few to keep in touch with as many of them as possible and feel bad when I get frustrated with the responsibility. So, yeah, absolutely. I had a relative passed away several years ago, but that was kind of her job. She took it upon herself to be the person who kind of kept the family together. And while my family didn't live in the same town as her, she would type. This was a woman who was using a typewriter. She would type these family trees, and she would talk about these family reunions and things of that nature that were going on and how everyone was doing. And when she passed, a lot that responsibility that she had taken on herself to be the person who had to do that never transferred to anyone else. And so there's that disconnectedness. So are there any other comments that anyone would like to make? Anything else we'd like to share? Looks like Brian's having a technical issue. Please let me know if everything is still coming through okay. And Sarah, it sounds like Sarah's mentioning having some trouble with reconnecting with her mother, and her mother doesn't want to connect. That's really rough. I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm very, very sorry. That's that's not something you should have to go through. That's not right. And I'm sorry that that's happening to you. Tamara wants to thank us for reading the two that she submitted. Well, Tamara, thank you for being part of the community. We're here because you're here, all of us, all of the people who are online right now. We actually have a lot of people. Not everyone is logged into the chat room. Again, log into the chat room so you can participate. so that you can be a part of the community. That's what we're here to do. It's not TV. It's not a passive experience. It's an active experience. That's what we're here for. We're here to be here for each other. I was interviewed for a newspaper the other day about OneShul. And the comment that I made about OneShul, and this is really what I believe, and I hope everyone else believes this, is religion at its best lets people know that they matter. And you matter, Tamara. And Brian matters, and Sarah, and Natasha, and Aaron, and Ian, and Charles, and everyone else who's not logged into the chat room matters. You all matter. That's what we're here to do. We're here to let you know that you matter, that God matters to you, that you matter to God, and we're here to sort of play Yenta the matchmaker, matchmaking God and the Jewish people together. And Natasha says, thanks for doing this whole project. People need this, especially in these times, especially young Jews. Absolutely. I think everyone needs it, not even just young people. But Natasha, remember, you're a part of the community. It's not my project. OneShul is not powered by Patrick. It's powered by you and Sarah and Tamara and Aaron, who leads great meditation services. Sarah Bas Avraham is going to be teaching Torah study coming up next week. So it's not me. I'm just a guy with a computer. It's not me. You're responsible for OneShul. You're responsible for what's going on here, and I want you to take ownership of that and to make a serious commitment to it. Are there other things that we'd like to mention in the community before we move on to reading the rest of the prayer requests that have been made? I'll give everyone a moment. I know I'm a really fast typer, but I'd like to give everyone the opportunity before we do the next part of our service. Natasha is mentioning financial difficulty. Absolutely. Right now, that's a big problem for a lot of people. So we mourn financial difficulty because of the insecurity it creates, because it hurts our self-esteem, our self-worth. I think that's the hardest part about having a financial problem is, on one hand, it's the insecure. It's just not having money, of course, and that's scary and insecure. But it's also the sense that we did something wrong, that somehow we're not good enough to have money. That's the way money works, right? You either have it because you deserve it, or those who don't have it don't deserve it. So if I don't have a job, and if I have bills that I can't pay, well, it's because I did something wrong, because I'm bad. And that causes a lot of hurt for people. Jenny makes the comment, I find that in some respects I am attached to my grief. Absolutely. But and that's what Tisha B'Av is, right? We're attached to our grief about the loss of the temple and all of these things that I mentioned. And that's okay. We're not here to be mentally healthy. We're here to be the best version of the messed up person that we are, right? There's no award, when you die for the most put together, right? It's not the way the world works. You don't get some kind of prize for being the most organized, for being the most stable, for being the most whatever it is that we think we're supposed to be. Life is just life. And God makes us all a little unusual. We all have our own eccentricities. And my favorite thing about the Torah is the fact the Torah doesn't teach us how to be perfect. This is actually a challenge I like to challenge people with. Name one person from the Torah who's perfect. There's not a single person. And I would even go a step further. Name a person who you would like your children, if you have children or a hypothetical child, that you would like your child to be like. In every single way. All of the positive and all of the negative. Right? And you can't find it. Moses was a great man. He also, had an anger control problem and wasn't able to, enter the promised land because of it. So there you go, right? So, not everyone is perfect, and that's okay. The great heroes of the Torah were flawed people. So everyone has an opportunity at holiness, and you never know who God's going to choose to be that person in that time. And maybe we don't know what our mission is or what we're supposed to do. Maybe we haven't had these sort of aha moments where God speaks to us and says, here's your job, here's what you're supposed to do. We're not all fortunate like prophets where, we're just eating a bowl of Cheerios one day and all of a sudden God tells us, by the way, here's what you're going to do, right? But maybe there are moments where, you decide not to cut in front of someone in line. Or you decide, maybe that person who's, says they're hungry and just needs $1, maybe they just need $1. Different things like that in life where we have those opportunities. And you know what? What do you know about your own life? Could it be that something you did years ago may be what your life was meant to be? How do you know in the spectrum, the cosmic spectrum, what your mission was? Your mission could have just been to help a friend at some point, that one friend, and then everything else is up to you. Maybe your whole life really led up or will lead up to one moment, and it may not be anything that profound. We don't all have to be the president in order to impact the world, right? It could be some very, very small thing. I have a relative, different relative than the one I mentioned earlier, but I have a relative on my other side of my family who's interested in genealogy. And I don't know anything about about the family that she likes to write about. I don't know all of their history, and I don't frankly understand all of it because some of it is confusing and what have you. But I have two relatives, great relatives, who are buried somewhere North Georgia area. And I think about them, and I wonder, what was their purpose, right? Like, we think a lot about what our individual purpose is, right? Like, what does God have in mind for me? Like, what's my fate? What's my, whatever the case is. Brian asked me, Georgia as in state or country? State. Although, as a nice little pun, just to lighten Tisha B'Av, there are certain people in the state of Georgia who think the state of Georgia should be its own country. Where we're kind of like that around here. Anyway, probably not good to make jokes on Tisha B'Av, but why not? But anyway, so I think about, like, when they were alive, what did they think about their life? What did they think their goal was supposed to be? What did they think their fate or their destiny was? And then you flash forward, we're talking 300-something years, something like that. A long, long time ago. What would they think of now? So there's a midrash that right before Moses died, that he saw and this is a midrash that you see in a lot of different characters from the Torah's lives, that they saw all of Jewish history. So you got to think about that. Like, if you had that moment where you could see all of the history, what would that make you think? Could it have been that because you let someone use your bus token one day 10 years ago, you have forever altered the history of the world? It's crazy, but, when you get into stuff like that, when you think about that, it could be that your life was just for one moment, and that everything else was just up to you. Everything else that happened to you in your life was just you kind of living it. And that's the reward. The reward for you living out that one mission, so to speak, whether it was some huge thing like, creating some amazing invention or curing some disease or whatever. These are big things we think about. But maybe it was the one little thing. Jonas Salk, who, created the, the polio vaccine. Maybe his high school science teacher had a crummy life, right? Like maybe his high school science teacher or his elementary school science teacher had a horrible life. But that teacher's goal was to teach Jonas Salk. Maybe that's what their whole life was worth, was to teach Jonas Salk. And because of them, polio has basically been eradicated. Right? We have no way of knowing what it is that our impact is on the world. The most we can do is to live it as much as we can. And if we do that and we have more opportunities to impact more people, maybe there's more fates, right? Like, maybe it's not just one thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's not this one moment of destiny. Maybe there's lots of moments of destiny. Maybe every single thing we do is a destiny. You ate this meal instead of that meal, and then that forever alters the course of the world. You never know. Okay. So I'd like to end this service by noting something. We have said our special lamentations, our special prayer requests for tonight's service. But we have many, 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 many requests that are in our past prayer request list. So I'd like to just take a moment for us to kind of quiet our minds. We have a traditional healing prayer called Misha Berach, but I want to do something a little different. I want to just take a moment to ground ourselves, because we've been talking about all these deep things. And sometimes when you get into these deep things, it's kind of like getting trapped in a rabbit hole. Like you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and you just lose yourself, right? And while some traditions would teach that that's a good thing, that the loss of self is somehow, a desirable thing, I like to take a moment to just kind of bring it all back together. Because at the end of the day, we can be deep and we can be philosophical about everything, and we can really just pound away at some of these difficult issues. At the end of the day, you still have to get up, and you still have to live. So let's just take a moment to kind of focus ourselves, sort of go home to our hearts, and to go home to this place that's in here, or up here, or wherever it is for you. And just, concentrate on breath, or listen to your air conditioning, or the sound of your children playing in the other room, or the hum of your computer, or whatever it is. Just find that single thing that brings you back to this space. And just take a moment to have that. Let's come back and sort of feel ourselves returning to the knowledge that with all of this heavy stuff, with all of this deep stuff, this intense stuff, at the end of the day, it's not about having all the right answers, and it's not about beating ourselves up all the time about knowing what to do or how to deal with this, that, or the other. It's really just about grab the glass, get the water, have a drink, get your keys, drive to work. Basic things. That these basic, everyday things are what allow us to live through sorrow. And that the more opportunities we can have to be together, the more opportunities we have to connect with other people, the more opportunities we can help them to deal with their sorrow, which is what we ultimately need to be doing. We all need to invest in each other's lives. This is I really do believe this is the single greatest problem that exists in Western society today, is that people are unwilling to invest themselves in the lives of other people in an impactful way. I call this the Facebook friend phenomenon, of people who have 500 Facebook friends and only one person they can ever talk to. And it's not because those 499 people don't care about you. It's not because you don't matter. It's because we as a culture have decided that we all don't matter. So I'm here to tell you, you do matter. You matter greatly. And your pain matters greatly. It's not about getting over it. It's about getting through it. So, Mishaberach, Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, may we all feel ourselves healing. May we all help to build the great Sukkot Shalom, the great Sukkah of peace. And if we all bring something together, if we all bring of our hearts to building this shelter of peace, then it gets bigger and bigger. And what's the great thing about making it bigger and bigger? We can put more and more people under it. So that's what it's all about. So, thank you so much for participating tonight. I will be staying on for an additional 10 minutes to answer any questions, to talk more about Tisha B'Av. Again, I can't stress enough, we need you. We need you to volunteer. We need you to lead a prayer service, to teach a class. We need your financial donations. We survive entirely on donations. Donate your time and donate financially. All of these things help. When you give, you aren't giving to a movement. You aren't giving to a building. You aren't giving to an assistant. You aren't giving to all of these things that we as a Jewish community spend money on. You're giving to your own community. And if you're here for the first time, you're just as much a community member as anyone else is. You have just as much right to demand of this community what you need Jewishly, what you need personally, and for us to help provide that for you. So please know that this is your home and that you belong here. And help make the home better. Help it to become stronger. So, thank you again for coming. I wish you all peace, most of all, because peace is probably the greatest blessing that life has. Thank you very much.